So Torah Rabbanim we learned in the Bais and Noisim is nice Lifnei Akelev Bechatzer. A lot of halachas today that are very much halacha l'maisa. We just have to apply them a little bit later on, even more. So the first shaila is about feeding animals that are not ours. So the halacha is that, of course, we're obligated to feed our animals, and not only that, but it's a mitzvah and it's an avera not to do it of tzar balechayim. But what about strays? So over here, the Gemara tells us a chiddush that by dogs there's an exception that you're allowed to feed any stray dog. As long as you're allowed to carry over there, there's an eruv, so not leviyotzei. So, like, let's say that the dog takes it out of the place where there's an eruv, and is kokenloi. So we're not really worried about it because we didn't arrange for the dog to take it out. We didn't schlep the dog. So the dog's doing whatever the dog wants. The dog wants to schlep a piece of meat out of the area. That's no problem for us. Similarly, so we're also allowed to feed any poor guy. An interesting thing, an interesting halacha, and we're allowed to put food down for him. And nitalei v'yatza and iskakalei. So again, as long as the guy is doing it, we're going to have this halacha today. Amid Aleph, Amid Bais, it's called al daita de atzma. It's very negeya that, for instance, all these stores where, let's say, for instance, in a mall, where the mall has a rule that the stores have to be open seven days. So what does a yid do? A yid has for instance, very often a jewelry store. It's the most common thing in a mall. The strip malls are not doing so well these days, but assuming that the store is still functioning and there are non-Jewish workers, so as long as they're getting a cut, if they're getting just a salary, it's a very hard thing to say that we're allowed to employ them, because then they're working for the yid and they're getting money. But if they're getting any kind of a commission, so then it's mutter. So why? Because they're doing it al daita de atzmam. Now, on the other hand, if we're the only ones that's making the money, so of course they want to keep their job, but we're telling them to work. Otherwise, they're coming to work on their own. So this has to do very often with people that keep offices open on Shabbos, like for instance, medical offices very often are open on Shabbos, but there's no the doctor is not working on Shabbos, doctor or dentist. So the nurse or the secretary wants to come in to make phone calls and to make appointments and to receive phone calls. So first off, she gets paid not by the hour. It's much better, but she wants to do it because otherwise, let's say it's over the weekend, so she can come in on Saturday or Sunday. She'd rather come in on Saturday. It's a guy. So then it's completely mutter. If she's a yid, it's not mutter at all. So because then it's mamish lifnei evil isite mechshol. So anyway, similarly, so we're allowed to give food to the guy in the chatzar, not leviyatza, and it's like so. And it's we're not worried if he carries the food out, because that's his business. He's taking the food again. I'll die to the atzma. He's taking the food home. We gave him food in the chatzar, but he takes the food out and takes it home. So now the Gemara asks the kasha, hasulamali. So why did I need both of these cases of the dog and of the guy? It's the same thing, that the dog is doing whatever the dog wants. The guy is doing whatever he wants. So Gemara answers, the same. No, I would have thought that Rami alei, Rami alei, that we have to feed the dog. Now, by the way, again, why do we have to feed the dog? We just said that you're not supposed to feed strays. So it's interesting that the Gemara held that dogs in the time of Chazal, first of all, they roamed around very freely, and nobody was feeding them. We weren't so much worried that they're going to bite us or anything, apparently, but we were worried that they would starve to death or that they wouldn't have enough food. So there's a mitzvah of imitating Hashem. The Rishonim say, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes care of all the creatures, and we have to imitate Hashem. So I would have thought that applies only to animals, but it doesn't apply to the guy, Kamash Malon, that not only that it's okay to feed the guy, but he's a human being. So there's a mitzvah to feed him. It's, again, assuming that he's a decent guy. Now, Tanur Rabbanan will learn in the Bais, Kehillas l'nochri b'erev Shabbos. You're not allowed to rent something to a guy on Friday, but b'revi'i v'chamishi mutter. But on Wednesday and Thursday it's mutter. So kiyaitze by similarly, this is where it's the geya. All of us were coming up to sending a letter to put it into the mailbox on Erev Shabbos. So it's very interesting. They didn't have, at least at this point, we'll see later on, the Machlokes Rishonim, if they used to have a mailman. So, but they said you can't hire a guy and Erev Shabbos. You can't just send a letter with a guy on Erev Shabbos. But on Wednesday and Thursday it's mutter because it doesn't look like you're making him do malacha on Shabbos. Wednesday and Thursday is not yet Shabbos, but Friday, if you give it to him, it looks like you're telling him to do it on Shabbos. Amrul level Rabbi Yossi HaKohen, there was a yid Rabbi Yossi HaKohen Amrul Rabbi Yossi HaChassid. Now some Rishonim say they're the same person. Sometimes they called him one thing, sometimes they called him another. Others say these were two different people. But anyway, they were very, very holy people, very machmir on themselves. That he never gave a guy a letter even on the previous Sunday because he was afraid that the guy would carry it on Shabbos, and it was as if he was doing it for the Yid. Now this is never a dairaisa, according to most Rishonim, it's a drabanan. Amir la'akrum shvus. So, but nevertheless, he was very makbid on himself. It shouldn't even by accident come on. For sure, he never. If he would give him a letter on Sunday, so for sure, there's no question that he wouldn't want him to deliver it on Shabbos. He would want him to get it delivered somewhere between Sunday and Friday. But nevertheless, this is a very big chumrah again of Rabbi Yossi HaKohen and Rabbi Yossi HaChassid. Now, Tanarban will learn the Bais. Emishach and Igeres b'yad nochi of Shabbos. Elam came. So now we come to the modern thing, that unless the guy has a specific payment, so if you're paying him already and you're not paying him to do it on Shabbos, you're paying him for the maisa, you're paying him for the action. So then it's mutter because he's being paid to do something. You didn't tell him to do it on Shabbos, obviously. You bedafka not. And we'll soon see later on that sometimes you're mechuyev to tell him, don't do it on Shabbos. We'll talk about a ship where, at least in time of the Gemara, one shita was that you had to tell the captain not to drive, so to speak, on Shabbos. All right, we'll get to it in a minute. So Beis Shammai, this is the
So that's Rob. Yeah. So that's why you could put a stamp on it and put it in the mailbox Friday afternoon.
Right. Yeah, that's how most places can hold today.
This is a fixed fee.
It's a fixed fee. The interesting thing is that I remember, I'm an old guy already, Baruch Hashem. So I remember when there were paiskim that said you can't mail a letter on Erev Shabbos. Today came out all the paiskim hold in America, where most of the mailmen are not Jewish. Once in a while you get a mailman that's Jewish, but in Eretz Yisrael it's not mutter. If the mailmen work on Shabbos, I think somebody said that in Bnei Brak, the mail b'chlal is not even picked up on Shabbos. So then it's mutter. But if the mail would be picked up on Shabbos, and it would be a pretty good chance it's a roiv that the mailmen are Jewish, then you wouldn't be allowed to mail on Erev Shabbos. Today, everybody holds its mutter.
Rabbi, for me and for most people, more than mailing is your credit card is due on Shabbos. You click OK. Have it processed on Saturday.
Right.
Or it's automatically processed on Saturday. Right. Is that so today, the same thing?
So today that's mutter. Right. Today that's mutter because the whole problem was over here. How does it look to the public? In other words, let's say you're giving something to the guy on Erev Shabbos, then he carries it on Shabbos. So it looks like you told him to do it on Shabbos. It would be usher. But a credit card type of thing where you're doing a transaction Erev Shabbos, it's chal on Shabbos. So Reb Kivega and others say that it's completely mutter. Halacha l'maisa, and that's the way Kimat, I think everybody passes. Okay, we should make a bracha.
I'm talking about even if it's actually on Shabbos.
Then what? The payment happens.
I'm saying if it actually gets. Yeah, not Erev Shabbos.
Yeah, but you didn't do anything on Shabbos Chas v'shalom. You pressed the button on Erev Shabbos, right? This is not a problem. We'll see this actually mamish right in the Gemara. So there has to be enough time when you're giving the guy the letter that he would be able to get to the recipient before Shabbos. So Beis Shammai is machmir. In other words, we're worried about what's going to happen with this letter. Beis Hillel say no. All you have to worry about is that the guy should be able to get out of the Jewish area, and he's going to get to the area where the letter is being sent, not necessarily to the final house. So Gemara asks the kasha. So if that's the case, Valoi Kotzatz, he set a certain amount of money that this is going to be that he's going to pay him. So how come Beis Hillel holds that there has to be enough time for the guy to get to some place? Well, who cares? He's paying him for the act, not for delivering it on Shabbos. So Gemara answers, Rav Sheshes said, Hachigam, this is the case. He didn't set a fee. And I was like David said about the stamp. He didn't put a stamp on it. He just gave it to a guy to deliver. So Beis Shammai says that there has to be enough time that it's going to get to the house of the recipient before Shabbos. Beis Hillel say no. It has to get the nearest house to the wall. That means on the other side where he's sending it to that neighborhood. Where it says, didn't you say that you can't that unless there is a certain amount that you're paying him, that you can't send it at all? And over here it seems that you can send it as long as it's getting there by a certain time. So it says like kasha. That's not a kasha. Now, this is very interesting. Rashi learns over here Beidayar is the mayor. So it's very unusual. The Kviya Beidayar b'masa. So Rashi says that Rashi's girsa is actually a little bit different than our Gemara, but Rashi says Shultain Ha'ir v'loi regil l'shloich igeres. He was the mayor. It could be the governor, but it's a city, so it's usually a mayor. That the dayar does not refers to a mailman. We'll soon see the most of the other Rishonim disagree with Rashi, but Rashi holds that it's the mayor, and everybody paid their bills, their civic duty or their urban marshal. You had to pay for what, like let's say, what utilities did they even have in the olden days? Water. There's no electricity, right? But they cleaned the streets, so you had to pay the mayor some kind of a fee. So most letters went to the mayor, or you say there's a pothole, I want you to fix this. So letters went to the mayor. People didn't write letters that much in those days. So anyway, so if there's a kviya beidayar b'masa in the city, so then Beis Hillel would allow sending the letter because the mayor lives in the city, and we're not worried that the guy, the deliverer, in effect over here, the mailman, is not going to get to the mayor. All letters went to the mayor. But where it said that that you can't send a letter, that means that the mayor is not. Now you got to hear this. What the halacha was in the olden days, that the guy who's delivering the letter, he's not delivering it to a house, to an address. He's delivering it to the gavra, to a person. So if the mayor wasn't home, you got to go chase the mayor wherever the guy is. That's the job. So we don't have such a thing by a mailman today. So the way at least Rashi learns is that we're afraid that the guy is going to have to go, even if the mayor lives close by. But if the mayor's not home, he's going to have to go chasing him on Shabbos, because let's say he was going to deliver the mail Friday, close to Shabbos. Then the mayor's not home. So that's why it's usher. Now, the Rambam and the Tur and the Shulchan Aruch completely disagree with Rashi, and they say Beidayar is a mailman, and there is a post office, and that's why it becomes mutter, because the mailman, he picks it up at the mailbox, just like by us. He delivers it to the house, and he's done. So that's why it's mutter. Okay, now so that's why, as we were talking about before, Yitzi brought it up about delivering and also David, when we mail a letter to these days, you put it in the mailbox and you're done. You're not interested in whatever else the mailman is doing.
Rabbi, does all this is with a shliach as well, or that it's okay?
Well, so that's coming up. We're going to come up with a mashal with Amazon these days, and UPS, all these things that they pick up. That's a shliach. There you have to be very careful that you can't do overnight. Let's say Friday. You can't go to the post office to say, or however people do it these days, that the Amazon, I want this delivered tomorrow. to my cousin in Mexico. Can't do that because then you're making a shliach and you're asking the guy, so to speak, to do it on Shabbos. If you say, get it, I want this, I want delivery by Monday, it's fine. So you can do it Shabbos, Matzah Shabbos, Sunday, Monday. So then you gave him options. We'll see this in the Gemara. Tanar Bana, we learned in the Rice. So this is also very negeya. Bisman hazeh, cruises. I don't know if anybody's ever going to go on a cruise again after all these crazy stories. But let's say somebody's going on a ship, on a boat. So Tanar Bana, we learned in the Rice. Mafligim besfina pachus mishleish yom kaidem l'Shabbos. We'll soon see. It's very, very negeya when people do go on ships that our ships, when there's a long cruise, it's moving on Shabbos. So we're going to soon see that this Mishnah, this Bais rather, says that you're really not, the boat is not supposed to l'chatchila be planning to go on Shabbos. But Medvar Mamurim, so when are you now going to go with 3 days, less than 3 days before Shabbos? L'dvar Rishus. If you stem going on a cruise, Avol l'dvar mitzvah, but if you're going for a mitzvah shapidami, so you can even leave with the boat right before Shabbos. Well, Paisakimai, but you have to make a deal with the captain, Amanas Lishbais, that he's gonna stop, he's gonna go into port. In other words, he's gonna park the boat, so to speak, right before Shabbos, and the boat is gonna sit and not move. Ve'ena Shaivis, and even if he's not going to do it, so it doesn't matter because you told him you don't want to travel on Shabbos. So in other words, the main thing is that we're not allowed to tell a guy, I want to travel on Shabbos and please take me there. So I'm not chas v'shalom paskening on this, but all these trains now that the train stops automatically, it's all automated, and you're paid in advance. So theoretically, nobody's driving the train. It's the autobahn or the this or the that, and you're allowed to get on, you're allowed to get off. So there's a lot of xeris today why we're not allowed to do that. But theoretically, it should be like a boat where you say to the captain, I want you to stop on Shabbos. Now, why do we want him to stop on Shabbos? Many Rishonim disagree about this. Some Rishonim say that the first 3 days of travel on a boat, people get very seasick, and you're not supposed to put yourself into a situation where you're going to be unhappy on Shabbos. You're going to be seasick. You're going to be throwing up on the side. So once you get used to it, after the 3rd day, it's okay. Others say that we're worried that the guy is going to do stuff on Shabbos like a steamship. We'll get into this in a little while, because all these boats that we're talking about in the Gemara, they were sailing ships. So there's really nothing to do. All they do is they turn the sail, and that's not an Issa D'Oraisa. But to make a guy do an Issa D'Oraisa, so many poskim hold Bisman Hazeh, that I shouldn't say many, but a number. For instance, the Satmar Rebbe was very against going on a boat that's going to travel on Shabbos, because Bisman Hazeh, it's all they're doing malacha. If it's a steamboat, if it's electric, it's whatever it is, it's a boat. But even the Satmar Rebbe asks himself, the minig is that we do allow it. Everybody goes on these boats. So the teretz is that Bisman Hazeh, if there's goyim on the boat, but the problem is when they commission an entire boat with a Jewish cruise, and mostly it's Yidden, it's very, very hard to be matir why they're going on Shabbos. Okay.
What about a problem with the Zmanim while it's moving? How do you know exact Zman, when Shabbos is over, when Shkia is?
Yeah, so that's the least of it. You plan ahead. You know where you're going to be. You look it up on a chart. Everybody does charts today. If guy goes to China these days, guys going to the Far East. So you can actually look up. There are Zmanim charts that do this for you, so you'll know exactly when the Zman is where you are. And you can daven Shachris, Mincha, Mariv, sometimes twice, because you're changing the international dateline. All right. Anyway, let's move right to Divrei Rebbe. This is all Rebbe Shita. So now the verse says, Reb Shimon Gamliel Oimer, he says, Ein et tzarich. You don't even have to make this t'nai with the guy that he's going to stop. And if you're going a short distance from Tzur to Tzidar, was on Erev Shabbos, Rashi says they used to have the market day in Tzidar. People used to go shopping Erev Shabbos, and then they came home for Shabbos. So it's interesting that they actually used to go out on a boat on Erev Shabbos. Some places can hold that even Bisman Hazeh, you shouldn't go far on Erev Shabbos. It's probably a great idea, because even today there could be traffic changes and people get stuck, etc., etc. Look at the world the way it is today. There's things are unpredictable. Tanarbana, we learn in a Bais.
Is this whole suga only if the Jew is a significant part of the boat group, it's people traveling on the boat, or today where you have 1,000 or thousands of people traveling, can you say the Jews anyway buttle to the whole crowd?
Right. So I wouldn't say buttle is the word, but the word is that they're doing it for the goyim, not for the Jews. So that's what I said on a cruise where it's a kosher cruise from beginning to end. 1,000 people chartered a nice, very beautiful cruise boat, and it's all being done for them. Then there's a lot of problems because they're making all this food and they're moving for the Yidden. So then many hold that they have to be in port on Shabbos or Yom Tov. So it's not a good idea to travel for Yom Tov anyway. There are people today, retired people with a lot of money, that they live on a boat. They travel the world, and then there's a lot of heterim. Most of the time there's goyim also, and there's a majority of goyim. So then it's mutter. But I know from people that have done this. They retired. That was their plan, was to travel the world, and they go from place to place. So it's very hard to tell the goyim that they have to go into port. Tana Rabbi, we learn in a Bais, ain't Sarvan Ali Yaris shall Nachrim Pachas Mishlosh Yom Kadam Shabbos. Let's say we are laying siege. We are besieging a non-Jewish now we don't usually wage war, but let's say that they started a war against us, and we are waging a war. So usually, if it's not necessary, you don't start 3 days before Shabbos, because then you know you're going to be Mechal Shabbos. But if they began the siege, so then you don't have to stop because of Shabbos, because there'll be a sakana. Even Shammai said, Ad ridito. So the pasuk says that when you wage war against the enemy, you have to win. The Torah wants us to win until that city is conquered. So I feel with Shabbos, this is even a Shabbos. Rabbi Goren, interestingly, when he was the chief rabbi of the Israeli army, so some people criticized him for being very makel. For instance, when it came to war on Shabbos, he was very makel. He said, like, Shabbos is like Tuesday. So they criticized him. But Lamaisa, he always used to quote this Gemara that Advidita means I feel with Shabbos. Even on Shabbos, you're allowed to win the war. Now, you shouldn't start, like a war on Thursday, Friday, even if it's a war where you have to do this eventually. Start on Shabbos, maybe you'll finish. Start on Sunday, rather, maybe you'll finish before Shabbos. But war is a very difficult thing to plan, and that's why in Eretz Yisrael, from the start, from the get-go, 1948, there were many machlokes about how to wage war on Shabbos. Okay, Amr Shem Gamliel, Naigim Hayu. So we used to have the minig by my father, so they were very, very machmer. So Gemara brings a brisa. So what was that? Tanya, we learned the brisa. Amr Reb Tzaddik, Kachoy Min Hagashul Bais Rabbi Gamliel. What do they do in the house of Rabbi Gamliel? Shey nice to play love and like Bais Shlosh Yom Kadam Shabbos. They did not give in laundry, white laundry we're talking about now, which takes longer, earlier than 3 days before Shabbos, because it took sometimes 2 days, certainly even a day and a half. So they did not give it in unless they had an extra day, 3 days before Shabbos, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Utzvuim, but on the other hand, colored clothing, it's interesting, by the way, they wore colored clothing, yeshiva today, black and white, penguins, right? So colored clothing even on Friday. What do we learn from there? So that for white, to clean white and to get it white, it was harder to do it than color, because color you don't really care. So blue is still a little bit blue, even if it's a little bit dirty. So that the Gemara brings a ma'aser. Abaya v'yovele u'manu l'tzvi l'katzer. So Abaya was giving in clothing to the launderer. I don't know if it was Chinese, but he gave the colored clothing to the launderer. So Amalei said to him, "Kama boisi lave, how much do you charge?" Amalei kedechivra, I charge for the colored, just like the white. So he, the launderer thought that he's putting one over on Abaya. So Abaya said, Abaya said, the Rabbanon was smarter than you. They already taught us that the white should be. Now I'm giving you colored, right? The tzvi. He gave him colored clothing, so it should have been cheaper than the whites. He said to the Lord, "Excuse me, don't try to put one over on me. I know that white is harder, so that's why you charge a lot more money. But I'm giving you colored, which is easier to clean. You should have charged me less." So Amar Abaye continues things that he learned about laundering. Haiman diyov man l'katzer, if you're giving in clothing to a launderer, so b'mishcha nesivlei, so you should measure it first to make sure that it didn't shrink and it wasn't expanded, stretched. Over Mashiach nishkol minei, and then you should measure it when you give it in, and measure it when you took it back. The Tzvi, because if it got longer, so you'll know, or wider, after the maskei, that the launderer stretched it. So, you could take off money or even charge him for the damage. The butzer, but if it shrank, so after the kafse, so he shrank it. Now it's less, than it was, and you can either demand your money back or something, or even charge him for the damage. Now the Morah says, we said in the Mishnah V'shavin elu v'elu shetayin. So both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, even Beis Shammai says that we don't make a gzeira on the wine press and the olive press, that if there were chopped fruits on Friday, so you can put these boards onto the olives and the grapes, and we don't worry that some juice is going to come out. So Beis Shammai was giving all sorts of gzeros. How come they allow this? Ma'ishna kulo the gozu Beis Shammai. How come bichlal they made all sorts of gzeros? So Ma'ishna kares Beis Abad bigule agast loy gozu. How come over here by the olive press and by the wine press? So they don't have a problem, and you can put this on erev Shabbos, right before Shabbos, and some more juice. In other words, olive oil and grape juice or wine is going to come out on Shabbos. So where it says Hanach the Yavulu b'Shabbos mechayev chatas. All the other cases, if you would do it, mamish on Shabbos, it would be chayev chatas. So Beis Shammai made exer, you can't even start at erev Shabbos. So Gazu Beis Shammai erev Shabbos and chashecha. So Beis Shammai said you can't start it Friday night because we're afraid that sometimes you're going to end up doing it on Shabbos. Because Beis Abad vigule agas the Yavulu Shabbos lemechayev chatas. Even if somebody would do this on Shabbos, so it wouldn't be an issa deraisa. Why? Because what's the issa over here? So there's a malacha called dosh. Dosh means threshing, and squeezing is a tolda of dosh. There's dosh, which is the av malacha, and then there's the schita, which is a tolda. So schita is only when you take first something, let's say an apple, you make apple juice, an orange, you make orange juice. So then it's a malacha deraisa. Now some say it's not even malacha deraisa, that only olives and grapes is a deraisa. That's for another discussion. So, but in any case, that would be the original juice. But over here, there's no original juice. The only thing that the planks are helping you is that it runs faster. It doesn't. The juice is coming out by itself. It might take 4 hours, and when you put the planks down, the wood, so it's going to go a little bit faster. That's not a deraisa. That's only a derabanan. So even Beis Shammai did not hold that you have to make a gzeira on a gzeira. Now let's just want to finish the Amid. Mantan the Komil Da'asim Mele Shapidami. So who's this Tana that holds that the fruit juice that comes out by itself is not a deraisa and it's mutter? So I'm Rabbi Yisrael, Rabbi Chanin, Rabbi Shmuel. This is Rabbi Shmuel. How do we know it's Rabbi Shmuel? This time we learned in a Mishnah we'll have later on. Hashum v'Bais v'Amalila shaviskum mibayjoim. Let's say you took some chopped garlic or grapes, early grapes, or early grain that they're not finished yet, they're not completely ripe. And then you put them with these beams that press it out before Shabbos. So Rabbi Shmuel holds that you're allowed to let it finish on Shabbos. Why? Because that's not a malacha deraisa anymore. Rabbi Kiva says, let's go to Amud Bais, lo yigmar. So you're not allowed to let it finish after Shabbos starts, and that's the opinion usually of Beis Shammai. But over here, Beis Shammai is Mekel, and Rabbi Akiva is Machmer even on this. Rabbi Elazar Elazahi. So Rabbi Elazar says it's the Tana Rabbi Elazar. It's a little bit confusing because there's Rabbi Eliezer that everybody agrees is a Tana. This is Rabbi Elazar. It might be our Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah that we're going to meet again in the Agadah in a couple of days. This not because we learned. We'll have this in Mishnah later on in Shabbos.
Rashi say Rabbi Elazar ben Padas.
Or Rebbe Elazar ben Pados, right? So see, Rashi says it's a Rebbe Elazar ben Pados who's an Amayra, but many Rishonim disagree with Rashi, and they say it's the Tana Rebbe Elazar. Those Rebbe Eliezer, the Amayra. In other words, you're right. Rebbe Elazar, when Rashi says Rebbe Elazar ben Pados is the Amayra, and he says it's Rebbe Elazar ben Shamua who was a Tana of the Mishnah. So others say it's Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah, as I said. So in any case, but we're going to go with Rashi, of course, that Rebbe Elazar ben Pedas is saying there was Rebbe Elazar ben Shamua. The Amairu was saying is Rebbe Elazar the Tana. So in any case, so what does it say over there? That if somebody took chalos devash shariska be'erev Shabbos v'yotzim me'atzman, so they used to take these honeycombs. By the way, the Chassidish Rebbes are makbid leil Rosh Hashanah. If you ever saw it, you go to some Rebbes. I think the Krula also gives this out. The Krula Rebbe, honeycombs. For some reason, it's a big schooler, not just to have honey, but to have honeycombs. So now, how do you get the honey out of it? So then you're going to have to break it up. So you broke up the honeycombs already before Shabbos. And now the honey is coming out by itself. So asur, so you're not allowed to eat that honey on Shabbos. Rebbe Elazar held that it's mutter to eat it. So why? Because on Shabbos you wouldn't be allowed to press it. So Erev Shabbos, if you started the process, so again, some of these Tanoim and Amoraim hold that it's also on Shabbos even to eat it. So now there were two shittas. Who's the Tana of our Mishnah? Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Chanina, my time Rabbi Elazar. How come Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Chanina did not agree with Rabbi Elazar that it could be the Tana of Rabbi Elazar? And that was again Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua. So my answer is Amalach Hasamu Demei Kara Eichel Ulab Seif Eichel. Now I'll give you a very interesting example of this in a minute. Halacha l'maisa for every Shabbos. So he said like this, that in the case of the honey, where honey was at first a food, and then it became also a food. Whereas you broke it up, so honey is also a food. Now, some Rishonim say that the Gemara could have said that it began as a liquid and then it stayed a liquid. But the Gemara thought that it's a little bit easier to explain. It looks like a food. It's like a brick of honey, and when you're finished with it, it's honey, which is still a food. That, in other words, the liquid honey does not have a din of a liquid. It's really still a food. So therefore, so it's not called squeezing, even midrabanan. It's not called schita. But when you talk about olives and grapes, so it began as an olive and now it's olive oil. You began as a grape and now it's grape juice or wine. So memela, that you're not allowed to do. So I'll just tell you very quickly the halacha l'maisa. In the Shulchan Aruch itself, it says, I made a bracha before it, so in the Shulchan Aruch itself, it says, "Mutter lischait lemonish v'Shabbos." It was called lemonish in the time of the Shulchan Aruch. You're allowed to squeeze a lemon. Why? So because the lemon juice we don't use as a drink. That's what it says in the Shulchan Aruch. Now today we do in lemonade, for instance. The main ingredient in lemonade, so the Mishnah Berurah says, is lemons, and therefore the lemon juice became an entity. It's not just using it to make something else taste better. That's lemon. That's the main thing is lemon. So the Mishnah Berurah says, "B'chlal b'zman you're not allowed to squeeze a lemon." But everybody agrees you could take a lemon, squeeze some onto a fish, let's say, if you like lemon on fish or on something else. Why? Because it's mashka bolatoch oichel oichel. It began as a food. A lemon is a food, right? It's not a liquid. It's a food. Then when you squeeze out the juice is going onto a food like the fish. So the Mishnah Berurah says it's mashka bolatoch oichel oichel and it's mutter. So, but the only thing is that the Mishnah Berurah says that you could do it like that. What about squeezing? So how do you make lemonade on Shabbos? How do you squeeze your lemon into your tea on Shabbos? So many poskim hold that you can't. The Chazon Ish holds that you can't. Why? Because today the juice of the lemon is the main ingredient. So there's three stages. The Gemara says that you can't make an oichel into a juice. So then the Shulchan Aruch says, well, lemon juice is not really a juice because you're using it as a food. Then the Mishnah Berurah says, no, today it became a drink. And the Chazon Ish says that since today the majority of the use of lemon is in lemonade or in when you want a lot of lemon in it, so the Chazon Ish holds that you can't do anything, even though the Mishnah Berurah says you could squeeze lemon onto sugar. Sugar is a food, so then you can dump it into your tea. But the Chazon Ish holds that you're not allowed to. So that's the machlokes, the Mishnah Berurah and the Chazon Ish based upon this Gemara. Okay, so now let's go weiter. So now what does Rebbe Lazar answer? So how come he didn't want to follow the other opinion? So he says Rebbe Lazar Amalach. So he would say Hashem in Leila Rebbe Lazar that filuzaysev anav v'nami shari. So we know that even by olives and grapes, which is a dairaisa, that if you already started the squeezing process and then the juice is coming out on Shabbos, it's mutter. How do we know this? When Rav Hoshi came from Nadoy, so he brought a new brisa that a lot of people, as we'll soon see, didn't know. If you chopped up the olives or the grapes before Shabbos, and then the juice came out by itself, so asurin, they're asur. So that's the first opinion. But Rebbe Lazar of Reb Shimon matirin. So Rebbe Lazar and Reb Shimon hold that it's mutter. So that's why he held that it couldn't be Rebbe Lazar that holds that it's asur. We know that Rebbe Lazar holds that it's mutter. Morah says, for Reb Yosef, Reb Chanina, how come he didn't say this? There's a brisa lo shmiela. He never heard of this brisa. It was a new brisa. Now the Gemara asks another kasha. What about conversely? Why didn't he want to say that the Tan of our Mishnah is Rabbi Shmuel? Didn't we learn already about this? So now there's three types of things that they used to do with the various things that produce juice. So, for instance, this would apply to orange juice and apple juice. So, first was risuk, they chopped it up. Then was dichu, when they pounded it, they hit it. And the third one was shchika, when they mashed it. That was already mashing when it becomes like mashed, like a mashed banana, for instance. So Amar Rava Bar Chanina Amar Rabbi Yochanan, he said like this: when it didn't get pounded yet, kulam b'lei pligi, everybody agrees that it's usur because we're afraid you're going to pound it. Ki pligi even mechusar shchika. But when is there a machlokes where it was pounded already, but it wasn't mashed yet? So and olives and grapes in our Mishnah is as if like they don't have pounding, and memela it's usur. Now, how do we paskin? So Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Shmuel, he paskin like Rabbi Shmuel. Now, the Gemara brings like this: shemen shel badodim, the oil of the olive pressers. So, and they used to have also machatzos badodim, and the mats that they used also, where they used to lay down the olives. So Rav also Shmuel Shari. So the question is, are they muktzah? So it was a machlokes Rav and Shmuel. This is the first time that we're having the halachas of muktzah. So the Gemara goes on. So another machlokes, which is very similar, hani krachi dezuze. So they used to have these kind of mats that they covered the ship's cargo. Today, they probably use like canvas and things like that. So Rav also Shmuel Shari. So Rav said it's usur, and Shmuel says that it's mutter. So now that was the second machlokes. The third machlokes is Amar of Nachman. Let's say you have an eiz lechalava, you have a goat. Those days they didn't deliver milk. You kept the goat, or you kept a cow around and you milk it. So let's say the goat is there for the milking, and v'rachel gizasa, or a sheep that's kept for its wool, or tanugelis lebeitzasa, where you have a hen, a chicken around for its eggs. The server, the ridja, and you have oxen that are used not for shechting, but you're not going to shecht this guy. You need this ox to pull your plow. The tamer, the iska, or dates that you're going to sell. So all these things, they're all muktzah because you're not going to do any of these things on Shabbos. So Rav Asar, Rav says that they're all asar. You can't touch them. Or Shmuel Amar mutter, they're all mutter. So Shmuel says that it's mutter to either move them or even to take something. Let's say one of them laid an egg. It's going to be the first mission in Beya. When we get to it. To kamiflig, we plug in the Rabbi Yehudah and Reb Shimon. What's the machlokes over here between Rabbi Yehudah and Reb Shimon? So everybody knows that Rabbi Yehudah holds that there's a lot of areas of muktzah, and Reb Shimon says that the muktzah is limited. So that's the machlokes over here. So now the Gemara brings a very extraordinary ma'aseh what happened with one of the talmidim, what he did. Hahu talmidah the oiri becharta the argus to Reb Shimon. So he paskin like Reb Shimon. He was very mekel in this city called Charta de Argus. There was a guy named Argus. He was like the mayor or the founder of the city. So he was always called by his name, Charta de Argus. And this Talmud, so it was really, as we'll soon see, it's somebody else's city to paskin. And he paskin like Reb Shimon to be mekel. So Shamte Rav Hamnuna put him into Cherem. He excommunicated him. So where it says, I've heard Reb Shimon Svirlon, we hold like Reb Shimon, not like Reb Yehudah. We're all makel on this. So what was the big deal? So my answer is, this was in the area where Rav was the Paisik. So he shouldn't have pasken against Rav, because Rav holds like Reb Yehudah, he's machmir in muktzah. So now Rav brings another story. How Ani Trey Talmidei, there were two Talmidim, and there was a house that Nebuch was on fire on Shabbos. So there's a machlokes, if nobody's in danger, how much are you allowed to save from the house? Chad matzel b'chad mana. So one used to bring out, not used to, but in that Maisa, he brought out only the amount of food that was in one package. V'chad the chamish mana, and the other one brought out even chad matzel ba'arba v'chamish mana, and one brought out 4 or 5 containers or boxes. So the kamiflig bepluga the rabba barzav de v'ravuna, and this machlokes was the earlier machlokes that we're going to have later on a whole sugya about how much you're allowed to save on Shabbos. Now, today the minute kemat universally is that somebody asks a guy if there's no danger to call the fire department. Why? Because fires spread very rapidly these days, and it could be a sakana. Just like these days, we're being very makel. We're going to talk about it, Amir Tzashem, tomorrow night. I think tomorrow night I'm doing. Tomorrow night I'm doing Haggadah, but on Monday night, Amir Tzashem, we're going to do halach, and today later on I'm going to be sending out something about. I'll just mention it now because of all the sakanas. So we're going to be very very makel about cleaning for Pesach. Normally we mamish scrub and we scrounge around and we try to find. These days we try to keep everybody safe and healthy. So kemat all the places can be very makel. Okay, let's learn the Mishnah. The Mishnah goes to Amid, to Chaf Amid Aleph just a little bit, so we'll try to finish this Mishnah. Ein soilin basar batzel ubeitza. So we're not allowed to roast either meat or onions or eggs on Erev Shabbos. El kadesh yitzoil mibayjayim. So you can't let the process of roasting finish on Shabbos. It has to be done Friday. A nice nepas l'tanum chashecha. Now this is going to be tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem. We're going to learn all these halachas which are very negay b'zman hazeh, like crock pots. So we're not allowed to put bread into the oven close to Shabbos, or a little piece of cake they used to put on the charcoal. So at the very least, it has to develop a crust while it's still day. Rebbe Eliezer, there has to be even time, not just the top crust, but the bottom crust also. Now this comes up to our halachas now of Hilchas Pesach, only unfortunately we don't have the Korban Pesach yet. Maybe Mashiach will come here before Pesach. It would be very nice. So, but what we can do is we can right before Shabbos, we can take that Korban Pesach and lower it into the oven. They used to have an oven that was open on top. They used to lower it in, not doors like the way we have our doors, and let it roast on Shabbos. And in the Beis Hamikdash, so there was this place called the Beis Hamukad. We had it on the Beis Hamad Aleph in Masechta Tamid. So we're allowed to do that also. Now let's just do a little bit of that chaf, finish the 2 lines, 1.5 lines in the Mishnah. And outside of the Beis Hamikdash, so outside the Beis Hamikdash, which we're more makbid because they're the Rabbanans. In the Beis Hamikdash, there were no Rabbanans, so we have to make sure that most of it is lit, not even just a part of Rabbi Yehudah. But if it's a fire where there's charcoals, so you can even light it before Shabbos, and that's all you have to do. So I just wanted to mention we have like maybe a minute or so. I don't know if anybody's in a rush, but we have a seder. The Satmar Rebbe, as I mentioned, has a long tshuva. People don't realize what a big paisik he was. So he has a long tshuva about our ships today, as I mentioned. So the Satmar Rebbe writes, Divrei Yoel Yeridei Siman Tzadik Daled, says, Pashtu, Dova Pashtu, Shuli Nemru Dvarim Elo El B'Sfina Shoya B'Zmanam, Halchus Me'alein Al Yedei Ruach. They were all ships with sails. But he says, Avo B'Sfina Shalanu, our boats today, Halchus Mikoyach HaKitor. So he was writing a long time ago when they were all steamboats. And they're always lighting the fires for the steam to go. It wasn't for sakana. People going out for a pleasure cruise. Theoretically, the boat could sit a whole Shabbos, nobody would care. So then he writes, however, he says, how come we all go out on these boats? So he says that basically because the Goyim are doing it for themselves, so we're allowed to be on the boat. He says, this was, of course, the Satmar Rebbe, when he was very upset about the steamships in Eretz Yisrael, the famous Mises in Eretz Yisrael in the early 50s. The captain's Jewish and the crew was Jewish. It's going 4 Jews. So the Satmar Rebbe Shalayala Das, there's no heter for this at all. So Satmar Rebbe made this distinction. So Bisman is also, when people go on a cruise, you have to go on a cruise, even though we want to be with Jews, where the ideal would be that it's Roiv Goyim, and we have our chefs, they're taking care of us for our food. And, it's going, of course, it's going to go on Shabbos because it's not shaykh that it shouldn't go on Shabbos. But as long as it's going on Shabbos because of the Goyim, and we said, listen, we'd rather not. That's what you're supposed to say. We'd rather not. The guy says, who cares? Couple of Jews. So we know that that's what they're going to say, but we're obligated to say, please don't drive the boat for me on Shabbos. And that's all you have to do. And then you can go on a cruise even when the boat is going on Shabbos, which many Erluchi didn't do. Okay, so